Hi everyone, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today's card features the new Whale Wishes stamps and coordinating dies. And I have created a thank you card using these adorable new images, and I've actually created a shaker card. To start, I'm going to use a couple of the All Prettied Up dies. These are from a release a little while back. I'm going to use the scallop rectangle and then the scallop circle, and I'm going to use a little post-it tape to hold both of these in place. I'm also going to stamp and emboss the wave from the Whale Wishes stamp set. That's stamped with Versamark ink and heat embossed with white embossing powder. Then I'm going to run all of this through my die cutting machine with one pass of the machine. All of this is going to be die cut from some watercolor cardstock, the Strathmore watercolor cardstock. I'm going to go ahead and pop out those images. I'm going to keep the inside circle and the outside rectangle together as well as I can and apply some Distress ink to this watercolor cardstock, starting with the Salty Ocean Distress ink. I wanted to create a kind of ocean-like looking scene. I'm going to apply some Blueprint Sketch Distress ink along the bottom edge. You can see these colors are not blended very well together right here. I'll go back with the Salty Ocean Distress ink and blend and blend and blend until I get a seamless transition from one color to the next. I'm going to go ahead and apply the Tumbled Glass Distress ink to this top portion then. You can see my fingers are getting in the ink and you can see all those finger marks, so I am going to use a scrap piece of paper to hold this down while I apply the ink. Again, I'm going to work on just laying the color down first, and then I will work on blending where those two colors meet to get that seamless transition. It's a little bit easier with the Salty Ocean and Tumbled Glass Distress ink, where the Blueprint Sketch is quite a bit darker. I'm going to have to work a little bit harder. I am using a little post-it tape to hold those two pieces together while I'm working on blending. Now that I have something to hold on to, it's going to be a little bit easier to blend these two ink colors together. I am going to go ahead and just apply the Blueprint Sketch and Salty Ocean Distress inks to the wave as well. Just one color on top and one on the bottom. Lots easier to do this in such a small area, blend those together. Then I'm going to spritz all of it with some water from the Distress Sprayer. It's going to leave some nice big droplets for a great distressed background. I'm going to let that sit for probably about 30 to 45 seconds and then blot it dry with a paper towel. When I lift this up, it's going to leave some awesome white big water splotches, which I think really help add to the whole ocean theme. I'm also going to buff off any ink on top of that white embossing on the wave. Now, I'm masking off a couple little areas there with those same pieces of post-it tape that I used to hold everything together, because the loops on some of the letters from the greeting from Whale Wishes are going to be a little taller, and I don't want them on the front part of the shaker. I stamped the word thanks. I'll go ahead and just pop out my little masks here. And then I'm going to stamp the words a ton right below that. Go ahead and move that to the side for a second and stamp the whale on some smooth white cardstock using the Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And then using a couple of Copic markers, I'm just going to color in the little white area on the whale to give it a little bit more dimension. Very, very light colors, just the E0000, I believe, and R00. So very, very light colors. Then I'll go ahead and die cut the whale with the coordinating Whale Wishes die. I'm using some snips, some metal cutting scissors to snip these dies apart, a little post-it tape to hold the whale in place as I run it through the die cutting machine. So here's what it's going to look like. The whale and wave are going to actually be on the front of the shaker. The greeting is going to be on the inside panel of the shaker. I'm going to stamp some little whale splashes or water splashes before I put the shaker part together. Using the Blueprint Sketch ink adds just a fun little bit of personality to the design. These are all going to be on that inside piece of the shaker as well. So when you shake the seed beads around, you'll be able to see some of those little splashes down below. The ones up high should be able to be seen very easily. I'm going to add a couple more, or another one there to the front, or the letter T in the word thanks. Before I get too far into building the shaker, I am going to take a white pen. This is an opaque white pen, and all of those little highlight areas on the word thanks I'm going to trace over with the pen. It's a little bit hard to see, but in real life you can definitely see that it's got that nice little highlight. It kind of covers up the blue background and helps the greeting to pop even more. So I'm just going to quickly trace over all of this using my white pen. A few of the areas you might need to go over again if you don't get really good coverage the first time. I think I went over the entire thing twice, making sure it was really dry the first time before going over it again. I'm going to use some glue dots to attach the wave there to the front panel of my shaker. Get the wave lined up how I want it to look. Then I'm going to just kind of gently pop out my centerpiece, put some nice strong adhesive on the back of the panel, and then I've trimmed a piece of transparency to fit behind. Go ahead and lay that down. Pull off the other side of the backing paper on the transparency. Now, what I probably should have done was, before I put the transparency on the back, I should have lined up that center panel on my card base. It would have made it a little bit easier. You can still put it together, but it's so much easier before you back that with the transparency. I also adhered the whale using some glue dots. So I have a backing piece for my shaker, and I've already attached or placed some adhesive there. I'm going to hold my front panel in place and try to line that up and adhere that center panel so that it is perfectly aligned with the front panel. And that looks good, so I can go ahead and press that down in place. I'm going to put a little glossy accents on the little wave splashes and then set that aside to dry really well while I work on the rest of the card. I'm going to place 2 layers of foam tape all the way around the opening in this card design. And it was just a little too narrow, so I went ahead and just trimmed this in half and stacked them one on top of another. I didn't want any of the foam tape to be visible around the opening. And you want the foam tape to butt up right next to each other so that the shaker material does not go flying out. So I like to do the 2 long edges first, and then I will go ahead and do it on the top. Make sure I trim that exactly to fit. Cut that in half again. Now below, I don't have to worry about it being too wide, so I'm simply going to leave it as is and stack it one on top of another. Plus, I'm going to add another couple of layers near the bottom, just so that whole top of the shaker stays nice and flush and you don't get any indentions or anything when you're sending it through the mail. Doesn't really matter if this one fits or not, but I did go ahead and do it all the way across. I like to take a powder tool then and go around all 4 of those inside edges to help it not help the seed beads not stick, or whatever you're putting in there. So I'm just going to go all the way around really good, and hopefully that will keep the shaker material from not sticking to the sides of the foam tape. And I'm going to fill this with some silver shimmer seed beads from Pretty Pink Posh. And I want it to be pretty nice and full. Then I'll peel off all of the backing paper for the foam adhesive and take the back of the shaker, that inside shaker piece, to the front of the shaker. Line up those pieces exactly. Make sure my scallops are lined up. Press that down in place and flip it over, and the shaker portion is complete. So just shake around that shaker material. Then I'm simply going to attach my shaker to a top fold white card base, and my card is all finished. Thanks for watching this video showcasing the Mama Elephant Whale Wishes stamp set and coordinating dies. The supplies I've used to create this card are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Here are a couple more Mama Elephant videos you might be interested in. Please subscribe for weekly card making and stamping videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.